Historic buildings standing side by side to gleaming modern architectures, and gentle sounds of the night music mixed with vibrancy of the night market.
Join us in Quanzhou.
Only on Global Business, only on CGTN.
Well, welcome everyone to CGTN's Rising Star Cities series, where we showcase for you some of China's most dynamic cities. I'm Michael Wang. This time we are in the beautiful city of Quanzhou in southeast China's Fujian province, and I would say Quanzhou is known by so many different names. You can call this place a museum of world religions. You can call it an emporium of the world, the Alexandria of the East, a melting pot of civilizations, and a microcosm of a community with a shared future living in harmony centuries before globalization as we know it today. So there's so much to explore about Quanzhou. This is our Rising Star Cities Roundtable series, and what better way to appreciate Quanzhou than to speak with the people who live in Quanzhou, sitting atop this beautiful, serene mountain, Mount Qingyuan, overlooked by the ancient Chinese philosopher and sage Laozi right behind us, overhearing our conversation, and hopefully we do justice to this city as we have a sage hearing our conversation. We've got a fantastic round table for you to talk more about this city. How about we briefly introduce our panelists and get everyone to just introduce themselves a little bit. Guoheng, let's start with you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Guoheng, and I was the chief interpreter and translator for Quanzhou's World Heritage nomination. And I'm also the vice president of Quanzhou's Overseas Returned Scholars Association.
Oh, cool. So we have to mention that because last year, Quanzhou won the status of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, right?
Yeah.
Specifically, UNESCO World Cultural Heritage Site. So congratulations to the city.
Thank you. That's what we are very proud of.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that, Guoheng. Kathy?
Hi guys, I'm Kathy. I work for the Foreign Affairs Service Center, which is a sector of Quanzhou Municipal Foreign Affairs Office. And my colleagues and I work as interpreters when foreigners paid official visits to Quanzhou, for instance, foreign diplomats in China and our government officials from our cities around the world.
Yeah.
And we also provide a service for local business people to apply for APAC business card, which grant the card holder a short term of business travel of up to 60 to 90 days in 5 years.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For 16 Asian Pacific Economic Cooperation economies. Including Russia, Korea, Japan, Australia, Mexico, Chile, and most Southeast Asian countries. And in short, my job is to promote the exchanges and cooperation between Quanzhou and the outside world.
Yeah, and as we've spoken many times before, Kathy, I think Quanzhou has a fantastic story, and it needs to tell its story more to the world. There's so much rich history and culture here. So Kathy, welcome, and then Vivian.
Hello guys, I'm Vivian. I am an entrepreneur in the garment exporting and here in Quanzhou, which is also my hometown. Actually, whenever talking about my job under the context or the background of Quanzhou as the emporium of the world in Songyuan dynasty, I always feel kind of related or connected to those Quanzhou merchants at that time, in 10th to 14th century when they were exporting tea, porcelain, and silk to the other countries and regions in the world, while I am exporting garments produced in China, in Quanzhou. So this always makes me feel kind of excited because it feels like I would already have a role to play at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're carrying on this merchant tradition of Quanzhou as one of the largest ports in the world in ancient history. And we're going to touch upon that throughout our conversation. So welcome, Vivian.
Thank you.
And Adam, you are new to Quanzhou.
Yes, I've been living in China for 7 years, but I've only been in Quanzhou for 3 weeks.
Welcome, welcome.
So I'm very happy to join this panel and join the city. I am an international teacher with Quanzhou No. 5 Middle School, specifically Balboa International. And yeah, like I said, I'm here to offer the perspective of a newcomer to Quanzhou and everything I've experienced so far.
There we go, a fresh pair of eyes. So
There
we
you go,
have
exactly.
three locals of Quanzhou and then a fresh pair of eyes
Exactly.
to give your impressions of the city. Fantastic. And Adam is from the United States, specifically from the state of New Jersey.
I'm from New Jersey,
Okay.
East Coast, born and raised. So
There we go. Okay, welcome, Adam. Guoheng, let me come to you first because you are an expert when it comes to the history and culture of the city. Maybe give our audience a little bit more background in terms of where we are sitting, because this is a beautiful backdrop. You hear the birds chirping, the cicadas singing, Laozi behind us.
Yeah. Quanzhou, people always describe the city as a city of hustle and bustle. And this is the place of transcendence.
Place of transcendence, wow.
So I would say that Quanzhou is the city that shared by mortal and immortals. That is a very interesting picture of the city. And here we are at the statue of Laozi, which is one of the 22 heritage component sites of the cereal property, Quanzhou Emporium of the World in Songyuan, China. And actually the statue of Laozi represents the multicultural community of Quanzhou during its heyday in a Song and Yuan period. And Laozi, the statue of Laozi had become one of the landmarks of Quanzhou. And actually, Laozi is not just overlooking us. He's overlooking the city.
Wow.
The direction that he's facing is and actually he sits on the northern extension, the northern end of the central axis of the old Quanzhou city. So this kind of setup reflects the city planning thoughts of the people in the Song dynasty. And one of the very interesting things is that Quanzhou is a very open city back in 1,000 years ago, especially in the 10th to the 14th century, and many religions were welcomed in the city of Quanzhou. But the Taoism, the local ideology, Taoism and Confucianism, was still the mainstream ideology of the city and of the land government. So this kind of setup to have a very important statue to be arranged along the central axis means the superb status of the statue.
Guoheng, I'm going to have to interrupt you because you have a spider on your shirt.
Okay.
If you want to gently,
it's
going in. It's going in. This is the beauty of a live broadcast, right?
Yeah.
And we're in a forced environment, so
Okay. It's gone.
it's probably
Yeah,
around
in the
your
back.
but
Yeah.
it's probably harmless.
Harmless. I see. It has many legs.
That's
That's okay.
Okay. Wow, that's really cool to know. Okay. And you spoke about so many different cultures and different religions coming here. I mean,
It's coming here.
Okay.
Just 1 second.
There we go.
Okay.
It's a jumping spider. It can jump.
Okay. Yeah, it's harmless.
It's hard.
For sure.
But I mean, I was just impressed that you still have a statue of Mani, right? Manichaeans used to live in Quanzhou as well. So this was, I guess, an ancient Persian religion, and the only statue of Mani is here in Quanzhou. That's how inclusive and open the city was.
Right.
Right.
And actually, I would like to add, the statue of Laozi is actually one of the evidences that testifying the very unique and prosperous and wealthy society in Songyuan, Quanzhou, which could provide sufficient funds to the all these major large-scale constructions, statues, and infrastructures.
Yeah. I mean, this statue behind us is what, maybe 800 years old? During the
more than
Southern
that.
More than that?
Yes.
Maybe 900 or 1,000 years
900 or
old?
1,000 years
1,000
old,
years
yes.
old. Okay. Kathy, do you have anything to add about this backdrop?
Well, I think the philosophy of Laozi helped a lot to encourage the maritime trade in Quanzhou. You know, in the ancient times, people, have to make a living mainly on agriculture. But this is not the land for good for agriculture. And according to Laozi's philosophy, you follow the rule of nature, and why don't you do some trade if you couldn't live on agriculture? It is natural in people's mind, according to his philosophy, to
Yeah.
do some trade overseas. And I think that philosophy helped a lot.
So what is this saying in Fujian? I remember hearing this term that Fujian is what, 80% mountain, and then 10%
Sea.
Sea.
10% sea, and then the other 10% is land.
Yeah.
So in Chinese history, this civilization was known as an agricultural civilization.
Yeah.
But maybe here in Fujian, because it's so mountainous,
Yeah.
the people had to rely on the sea a little bit more. And that was the natural way, and that's why Taoism influenced people, I guess, to go to the sea a little bit more in terms of making a living. And
That's right. And also, Laozi is the supreme god of Taoist religion. And it's a very important ceremony, what we call wind praying ceremony, for the success of every journey to the outside world.
yeah,
And
wind praying journey.
wind praying
I think there's
ceremony.
a mountain. There's a mountain in Quanzhou.
Yeah.
With,
Mountain.
yeah, Jiru Mountain.
Yeah.
With inscriptions of wind prayers for, I guess, safe voyage
Yeah,
on the
and
seas.
it's a Taoist ceremony.
Oh.
And actually, Jiuri Mountain is part of the Qingyuan Mountain. It's on the
Mountain as well.
northeast range of
Okay.
the Qingyuan Mountain.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta go visit. Gotta go visit.
Yeah.
Vivian, do you have anything to add on this front, or?
Well, yeah, just following what Kathy say, that because of Quanzhou's terrain, that agricultural development is not an ideal industry in China back then. So Quanzhou people, they just strive for a new life at the sea.
Yeah.
I think that is a natural way, and that is also why the coastal spirit is in the blood of Quanzhou people.
Yeah.
Because this kind of spirit has been deep-rooted ever since the ancient times.
Got it.
So following the trend and following the nature, that is what Quanzhou people is striving for a win all the time.
So Vivian, how would you describe life in Quanzhou these days? I mean, you're a young entrepreneur. This is your hometown.
I think actually at the very beginning of my career planning, going back to Quanzhou is not in my plan.
Yeah.
But coming back to Quanzhou has turned out to be a surprise in a very good way, because life here in Quanzhou is very comfortable. The housing price is affordable. The living cost is reasonable. The environment is clean and beautiful.
Yeah.
And besides, we have so many traditional local snacks and
Yeah.
so many cultures well preserved, both tangible and intangible. And furthermore, if I want to escape from the hustle and bustle, I could easily arrive at the mountain, like in Qingyuan Mountain, or
Yeah.
I could easily arrive at the sea. So I could choose to have a feast for my stomach, or a feast for my eyes, or a feast for my mind or my soul, or I could have them all here in Quanzhou.
I mean, that's great.
It is.
The mountains, the waters, the sea, everything is here.
Everything is inclusive in the
And
city.
culture.
And
Yeah.
culture, history, tradition. Adam, you really wanted to jump in.
Well, a few points that we've brought up so far.
Yeah.
Going back to the inclusive culture, as far as many religions. One of my first trips to Quanzhou before I lived here, I had visited the Silk Road Maritime Museum, which was fascinating for me. And they had an entire wing of the museum dedicated to the Muslim culture that
Right.
we spoke of, setting up the whole maritime trade industry. And I had, being not Chinese, we tend to have a general idea of China being very homogenous, very Chinese, strictly Chinese.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, Quanzhou has, forgive my pronunciation if I'm saying things wrong, but there's a massive, huge Muslim culture population in Quanzhou back then. I was like, wow, I just didn't know that. It was brand new and like kind of very interesting to me.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's not just Islam as well. I mean, you have Buddhists,
Sure, yeah.
Taoism, Manichaeans, Nestorians, an ancient Christian sect, Hinduism, Judaism, Catholicism, all here.
everything.
And Kathy, you wanted, I guess, maybe to mention to our viewers in terms of the pronunciation of Quanzhou, right? Because Adam got it correct.
Did I?
Oh,
But
yeah,
sometimes,
thank you,
yeah,
Adam.
it's Quanzhou.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Quanzhou.
It's because he has a girlfriend here.
But you've encountered some overseas friends that
Yeah, yeah.
might have gotten this city confused with another major city in China.
Yeah, that's really a
Yeah,
problem.
Yeah.
this is a problem for the promotion of Quanzhou, for especially to the English world,
Yeah.
because Q it's very hard for English speakers to pronounce as
Yeah.
ch. Most people may pronounce it like Quanzhou,
Like K,
which
yeah.
sounds like the capital city of our
Guangdong
neighboring
province.
province,
Yeah.
Guangdong.
Yeah.
So please, our viewers,
Okay.
our audience, visitors to Quanzhou, please remember this is Quanzhou and pronounce Q as CH.
Chuan.
Quanzhou.
Quanzhou. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you buy a high-speed rail ticket, make sure you come to Quanzhou.
Quanzhou.
Look,
Quanzhou.
Guangzhou is also beautiful, but you know, Quanzhou.
I do have an experience. 15 years ago, I've got a friend visiting me from Belgium, and he arrived in Beijing, and he just asked the counter, like, I would like to buy a ticket to Quanzhou, and he got a ticket to Guangzhou.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, I have
And
a
he
same
just
friend.
actually flew there.
So this is actually relatively common. I
My
guess.
friend have the same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh my
Okay.
goodness.
this is quite common.
Okay. So
It's quite common. Yeah.
we got to say that to our audience in terms of the correct pronunciation, because this is a hidden gem of China. If you come to visit, yes, Beijing is great with the Forbidden City Palace and all that, and Shanghai is beautiful, but Quanzhou, this is definitely a hidden gem of the
Yeah.
country that you should come and
So
visit.
it's Quanzhou.
Okay.
Quanzhou.
Quanzhou. Got
Yeah,
it.
in Fujian province.
In
and welcome.
Fujian province.
It's not going to be hidden anymore.
It's not going to be hidden anymore after we talk
It's a
about
rising
Quanzhou.
star city.
It's a rising star city. In my mind, it's already a star city.
Okay.
The bug. I mean, the spider just wants to join us. I'm not sure if that's a spider or a big ant,
It-
but
Just follow the nature.
it's following nature. Adam, I want to talk more about the livability of the city because the CGTN team, we've been here for about a week, and I just find this city very livable. A lot of what Vivian says, I agree. And for example, the old town, very convenient when it comes to public transportation. What are your views in terms of the livability of the city?
I was living in Xiamen before this, which
Yeah.
I found pretty livable. But then when I came to, I've only been here 3 weeks, like I said, a little under a month. But I would agree that from my experience so far, yes, city is very easy to live in, even as a foreigner who with limited Chinese speaking ability. I can get around every day, no problem. We have lots of scooters and e-bikes.
Yeah.
The public transit seems, I haven't taken it yet, but it seems readily available.
Yeah.
And even just walking, like you were saying, the climate, the temperature, a lot of tree cover, a lot of green spaces, just walking everywhere is very
Yeah.
pleasant.
Yeah.
And people have been very helpful, like Bawan security and stuff. Like I'm in a park or I get lost sometimes because I can't read the signs. People have so far been very helpful, and I was very
Yeah.
grateful for that as an outsider.
I love the lush greenery lining the streets of Quanzhou,
Yes.
right? It really gives you a great vibe. And the old town, there are these little white electric carts, and you just wave your hand, and they'll stop in Old Town, and they'll take you wherever you want in the Old Town. It's super convenient. It costs, what, two yuan?
2 yuan.
2 yuan, so
2
that's
yuan
about
per person.
30 US cents.
Yeah.
So roughly
30 US cents. I had a colleague do the math for me
Yeah,
before,
it's,
so
it's about right.
I'm not that quick when it comes to mental math. Anyway, but it's super convenient, right?
Yeah.
It is.
30 cents, and then you can go all around
Yeah.
the old town. Just wave, they'll stop.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
I have not
fantastic.
experienced that yet. I haven't-
Experience that.
I haven't gone to the old city yet since I moved here. I was there on my visits. a
Got
few
it.
times.
Okay.
You know
the-
what,
the-
that
the
is not-
twin pagodas and the food street and everything.
Yeah.
The white car you just mentioned is not just popular among visitors, it's also very popular among the local residents.
as
We
well,
also
yeah.
like to
Yeah.
take the ride along the white car to anywhere we want to.
It's
And
just super convenient.
it is
Super
also a
convenient.
kind of attraction plan of the government organized for the historical city in
Yeah.
Quanzhou too. So there's more convenient and go greener
Yeah.
in this old town transportation.
It just allows people to see the historical sites better, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. It's
going
How about
back
we
to-
invite the spider off the table a little bit because
Okay.
it's joining us. So let's.
Okay.
It's still moving around. So let's do that.
You didn't kill.
I did not kill it. No,
No.
I definitely did not kill that spider. He's just happily joining us on the
Okay.
ground.
Yeah.
Guoheng, I want to ask you about the significance of Quanzhou gaining the status of a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and maybe give us some of your thoughts on being the chief interpreter of that. Because I feel like this is such a historical city, but it took a while for Quanzhou to gain that status.
Yeah, but that's we spent about 20 years in getting the UNESCO's World Heritage status. But I suppose that the difficulty was not in terms of telling the story of Quanzhou, but to interpret it. But the interpretation into the framework of being a World Heritage Site, because UNESCO's World Heritage nomination, it has a certain process.
Yeah.
So actually we just spend time in the process rather than spending time in verifying what we are.
Yeah.
But I think the significance of the of Quanzhou getting a this kind of status is that as you mentioned earlier, that China was known for its agricultural civilization.
Yeah.
And usually the civilization of the oceanic civilization, or the civilization of the sea, was very underestimated or under promoted.
Yeah.
But once Quanzhou gained this World Heritage status, it has proven to the world that oceanic civilization is also part of Chinese civilization.
Yeah.
And played a very important role.
Yeah.
And way back, like 300 years before the great discovery of the Western world, China already achieved quite a lot in the maritime trade and facilitated not just to the Chinese empire during that period of time, but benefited to the surrounding regional countries and regions. And also Quanzhou as a hub for merchandise, and it was also a kind of communication center and dissemination center for religions.
Yeah.
Like foreign religions came in from Quanzhou and spread to China, and Chinese philosophies such as Taoism and Confucianism also spread to the countries and regions along the kind of ancient maritime Silk Road, and benefited to many countries and regions. And I think that echoes today's Belt and Road Initiative, that we, with the openness, inclusiveness, and tolerance, and we were at that point 1,000 years ago able to achieve that, to build a community of a shared future or shared prosperity.
Yeah.
And that's what we are doing today.
Today,
Belt and Road.
There was common prosperity.
The common prosperity, and to build a community of shared future.
Yeah.
And Quanzhou was not built by only Chinese people. It was built by a multicultural society and community.
Yeah. I want to get a sense of the scale of Quanzhou port, because again, I feel it might be underappreciated. So I have a quote, or I guess a paragraph from Marco Polo, because Marco Polo was here in Quanzhou. I think he was sending off a princess, right, to be married off in Persia. But
Coco Chin?
Coco Chin. Yeah. Oh, that's the name. Okay. But I guess just from reading this, I get a sense of the scale of Quanzhou's maritime trade back then, and then maybe Guo Heng or anybody can add on to how significant Quanzhou was as a port. So here's what Marco Polo said. He said, quote, "And I assure you that for one shipload of pepper that goes to Alexandria or elsewhere," so Alexandria, Egypt, "I assure you that for one shipload of pepper that goes to Alexandria or elsewhere destined for Christendom, there come 100 such, aye, and more too, to this haven of Zaytun, for it is one of the two greatest havens in the world for commerce." This was what Marco Polo said in his book on travels, and Zaytun used to be the, I guess, Arabic name for Quanzhou.
The city of Quanzhou, yes.
Yeah. So in terms of the scale of the city as a hub for global commerce, it was one of the largest ports in the world. The largest, I guess, in the East. Am I correct on that front? During the 10th and 14th centuries?
Right. It was the largest in the East, largest port in the East.
Yeah.
And just look at the name of the property name, of the heritage project's name. It is Quanzhou, emporium of the world.
Yeah.
So it means in the 10th to the 14th century, Quanzhou was almost like today's Shanghai and New York.
Yeah. That's how significant it was.
It was.
So then how did it become such an important hub on the Maritime Silk Road? It was one of the starting points of the ancient Maritime Silk Road.
I would say, depending on the excellent geographic location and condition in terms of the waterway for navigation, and excellent maritime tradition in terms of navigation and also shipbuilding.
Yeah.
And accumulation of talents. Quanzhou used to be quite a place where the scholar officials were actually Quanzhou produced a lot of scholar officials during that period of time, and good policies like maritime trade policies and low tax rates, and of course the support from the central government and multicultural society. And so these are all the key elements which made Quanzhou's success reasonable.
Yeah. And you can, I guess, maybe feel that entrepreneurial culture and maybe that risk-taking culture being passed down, I guess, to today's generation, Vivian.
Yes, I do want to add
Yeah,
on what
please.
Guo Heng just said, that apart from all those very crucial elements to the success of Quanzhou as becoming the center of the world's commerce and trade at that time,
Yeah.
the spirit of this entrepreneurship or the risk-taking, as what you just mentioned, or in my personal way, I would like to put it in a very local way, 爱拼才会赢, which obviously is in Quanzhou local dialect.
Uh-huh.
And in Mandarin, it is 爱拼才会赢.
Okay.
So it literally means that as long as you strive, you thrive.
Yeah.
Or you dare to strive for a win.
Yeah.
So this kind of spirit, as what we just earlier mentioned, that it was already deep-rooted ever since the ancient time when agriculture was not a leading industry here in Quanzhou. So the spirit of daring to try, daring to strive, daring to create something out of nothing has already passed down ever since the ancient time. So the entrepreneurs and entrepreneurship also requires a lot of that kind of spirit, the risk-taking spirit. So you can see nowadays, even we can have so many private enterprises, so many entrepreneurs in Quanzhou, as Quanzhou's economy is famous for its vitality of private economy.
Yeah.
So I will also like to add that on in terms of Quanzhou's success to the World Commerce and Trade Center in that time.
Yeah.
So that's why, I would like to say that Quanzhou's success today is not coincidental. It is inevitable.
Nice. We'll take that. I think that's a great saying. That's a great saying.
Okay.
Yeah. But Kathy, I mean, why do you think Quanzhou may be a little bit off the radar right now, right? Because Quanzhou, the city's economy led Fujian province when it comes to economic output. 22 times out of the past 23 years, this was one of the largest ports in the world.
Yeah.
And yet, it seems very low-key. Like, my sense is that this city is low-key. It's just hardworking, puts its head down and just works hard. Do you get that sense? Is that sort of the quality of people in Quanzhou?
Yeah, I think maybe Quanzhou is not so famous as a whole because it has jurisdiction over has jurisdiction over 14 districts, counties, and development zones. And for each counties, they have their specific products which are famous around the world. For instance, we have porcelain in Dehua.
Yeah.
We have Tieguanyin tea.
Hold on. This might be Dehua porcelain, right? Because Dehua porcelain is white porcelain.
Yeah.
Right. So this could be white porcelain from Dehua.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yes.
Okay. Got the confirmation from
and
Guo
Tieguanyin tea in the Anxi. And probably shoes from Junjiang, which are famous around the world. The brands
Anta, 361, Erica. Okay.
Yeah. And the products are related to their respective counties instead of Quanzhou as a whole. And when you know, there are many overseas Chinese from Quanzhou, and they identify themselves as people from their county instead of the whole municipality.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so that's why Quanzhou is not so famous as the municipality, but each of its county is much more famous than itself.
Okay. But again, after our conversation, it's
And
going to be more famous.
Yeah, so I don't think it's low key. It's
Okay.
just because the whole identification of the municipality,
Okay.
it's a long way to go for the municipal government, I think.
Okay. Interesting perspective. Adam, I want to test your Minnan dialect.
Oh no.
No? I mean,
You can try.
because we talk about tea, right? We're drinking tie guanyin, which is translated into oolong, you said, right? Oolong tea?
Well, it is one of the oolong tea,
Yeah.
but you can just literally translate it as Iron Buddha tea. It is also
Iron Buddha, yeah.
Iron
yeah,
Buddha.
Iron Buddha?
Iron Buddha, yeah,
tea.
tie guanyin.
Tie
That
guanyin,
literally
Iron
translates
Buddha.
into Iron Buddha.
That sounds cool.
Thank you.
Very cool. So how do you say tea in the local Quanzhou dialect, Adam?
I have no idea.
You have no idea.
I can say in Putonghua.
What is it in Putonghua?
Cha.
Okay,
Right.
and then so it's cha in Mandarin Chinese
Yeah.
in Putonghua,
I'm
and
gonna
then
assume it's completely different in Minnan.
They,
They,
they
completely
it is.
different.
they completely different from cha, but
they,
right sounds very similar to how
Tea.
tea is. Yeah, so it's,
Yeah.
it's basically where the word tea comes
Yeah.
from.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's
Right.
they,
sure,
right?
sure.
Because in French it's te,
They, yeah.
and then in
Stay.
Spanish
Yeah.
it's they.
Italian, yeah.
In Italian, I'm not sure. Also similar, I
Yeah,
would assume,
similar,
because
similar.
they're Romance languages.
Yeah.
In German, it's just tea. In English, it's just tea.
Yeah.
So, I guess the world has Quanzhou to thank, right? Because Quanzhou exported a lot of tea
Yeah.
back then as well, right? In particular, tie guanyin.
particular tie guanyin, oolong tea, and also the black tea as well.
Yeah.
And because Quanzhou used to be a transshipment center,
Yeah.
the hub of the cargoes coming in and out, and tea was transshipped to the ports of Quanzhou and export by ships to around the world.
So there was tea and then porcelain and then also was stone also a major export of Quanzhou as well?
It is
Yes,
from
it is.
Nan'an City.
And
From
still-
Nan'an
still
City.
is, right?
Still is.
Still is.
Yeah. So Quanzhou is one of the world's largest stone exporters even today.
It is.
A lot of stone
Yes.
across China comes from Nan'an County.
Nan'an County.
One
Nan'an
of
is a
them-
county level city.
Got it.
Yeah.
But one of the major cargo back in the Song and Yuan dynasties was iron.
Was iron as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this time we include one of the iron production site
Yeah.
in Anxi
Okay.
County, which is also one of the 22 component sites of
Okay.
the World Heritage.
So where was iron shipped? All around the Maritime Silk Road. Southeast Asia.
Southeast Asia,
Maybe Africa.
yes,
all the way to Europe.
Well, not to. I don't actually know if porcelain eventually end up reaching the eastern shore of East Africa. That's for sure. But iron products, I'm not exactly sure. But
Okay.
probably around the Southeastern Asian countries and regions, and to Arab Peninsula.
Okay. That would make sense. Yeah, because Quanzhou was connected to nearly 100 ports during the ancient Maritime Silk Road.
It is.
Right?
The trading countries and regions also during the heyday of Quanzhou's maritime trade also
Yeah.
reached to 99 countries and regions in the world.
Wow.
And I
Okay.
actually just searched in 14th century, they are only 100 something countries or state sovereign at that time.
Yeah. So Quanzhou was connected to some 99 or the vast majority
Of the world.
countries around the world. Okay. So I have to ask you guys in terms of what is your favorite attraction in Quanzhou in terms of a cultural heritage site. Who wants to start? Adam, have you seen the city a little bit in your 3 weeks here?
Well, during my 3 weeks, not so much, but when my few trips here to visit, yes, I saw One of my favorite things so far was Shaolin Si Temple. The
Oh,
Shaolin
we
South.
haven't mentioned that, huh? The
Shaolin South Temple.
Yeah.
My first trip here, it was during Spring Festival. It was very rainy and cold and didn't see much. But my second trip to Quanzhou, where I visited Shaolin Si, I was able to catch one of the kung fu demonstrations by the monks there, and I was like, wow, like you know, as a foreigner, you know, we all know about Chinese kung fu and everything, but to actually see it and like real, true Shaolin practitioners, I was like, wow, like I can feel that culture, that history, that just. So that was one of my favorite things about the city so far.
Did you see the iron head technique?
Yes.
Yeah.
They had a very large man who was kind of like, he was just focused the whole everyone else is doing all the flips and everything.
Yeah.
There's just this one guy just sitting there like focusing for like half an hour. Most of the promise. I was like, what is that guy gonna do? And he brings out this big long sheet of iron and just shatters it over his head. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
It's like,
That
no
is
wonder he
amazing.
had to focus for so long.
Was he focusing to get his qi ready?
I would-
How do
I
you
would
translate
guess.
qi into English?
I
It
would-
could be just
Qi.
it's just
Energy?
qi. Energy.
Qi.
Yeah.
Inner energy.
Inner energy, yes.
To get that inner spirit ready to take
Right.
on a very big challenge,
To
maybe.
concentrate your energy into one particular spot
Into one particular
of the
spot.
body.
In that
Yeah.
case, his head. I would
His
imagine.
head, yeah. He broke. I mean, I saw this. It was literally a steel bar.
Yeah, it was a long
Oh my God.
Yeah. And just-
steel or
yeah.
iron just whap and just shattered.
Yeah.
I was like,
I mean, I didn't know because the Shaolin Temple that everybody knows about is in the north part of China, I guess, or Henan province.
Yeah.
Henan province. But there's a
North-
south
Yeah,
Shaolin
South
Temple as
Shaolin
well.
Temple, yeah.
And is Quanzhou the originating city and region of the
It is.
South Shaolin martial arts?
It is.
Right. Okay. So that's definitely an attraction.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was very like, wow.
Yeah.
It was funny because I was like, can I take a photo of you? And like, yeah, sure. And like, can we take a photo with you? Like, maybe they're asking me. They're asking me if they could take a photo with me. I was like, of course, yeah.
I mean,
It was great. It was a great experience.
unique experience.
Yes.
And there's a lot of friends from overseas that can come study at the temple as well.
Yeah.
I guess for exchanges during summer or when the pandemic gets
Also
better.
kids as
and
well.
kids as well. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's a lot of young people.
Yeah.
So, okay, so the South Shaolin Temple, that definitely does it for you, Adam.
That
What
was-
about Vivian? This is your hometown. What is your favorite cultural attraction?
Well, as this 22 heritage sites actually composing as the one whole theme, Quanzhou as the emporium of the world in Songyuan Dynasty. And so each of these 22 heritage sites has its unique, distinctive, and irreplaceable heritage value.
Yeah.
But I guess that's not the answer you are expecting. So if I must choose one from this 22,
Yeah.
I would go for the site of Dirty Gate. Because
That's surprising. Okay.
it is actually the very first stop where the foreign merchants arrived at Quanzhou at that time.
Okay.
As outside of Dirty Gate, it was connected to Jinjiang River and further connected to the outer sea.
Yeah.
And within the Dirty Gate, it is the downtown of Quanzhou. So it is exactly the foreign merchants when their cargoes were landed at the port of Quanzhou and their very first stop. And besides, just right outside of the gate of Dirty, there is a very interesting street called Jubao Street, meaning a street gathering treasures. Because when those foreign merchants, when they arrived at Quanzhou, they would just gather at outside of Dirty Gate and display their commodities or these exotic treasures outside of the Dirty Gate and along the street for selling. So just picturing this is already very exciting, you know, it's bustle and hustle and bustle at that time.
Yeah.
And another reason is that the site of Dirty Gate is now just the remaining site.
Yeah.
It's not the actual gate. Instead of building a new magnificent gate over the site or replacing the site, the government just preserve what it is
Yeah.
to preserve its authenticity. And besides that, instead of building a tall wall, they just a 1 meter height iron fence around the site to protecting it and stopping people from entering into it. Besides, it's now a mini park for the nearby residents. So, you know, a lot of nearby residents or the tourists would take a break or take a walk every day there. So seeing this kind of picture that, the people and the heritage site living in harmony is really a very beautiful place like what we are now. We are just right under the statue of Laozi. It is, I believe that is also the charm of Quanzhou, that people are just living with the history, with the culture, with this very ancient heritage sites.
I mean, you were literally walking through a museum,
Exactly.
right? Because now that you mention it, I was in that square, and that Deji Gate. So this is the southern gate of ancient Quanzhou city, and you can see the architectural, I guess, layering of 4 successive dynasties of China, Song, Yuan, Ming, Qing.
Right.
So this would span, I guess, from like 960 AD all the way to the early 20th century. And you just have kids these days running around this cordoned off old gate.
Yeah, exactly.
And just being in the presence of such an ancient, I guess, gate wall is amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
It happens, this picture can be seen in...
All over Quanzhou.
Yeah.
And I
all
guess
over.
people just, I guess, it's part of their lives. They don't
It
think
is,
about it.
it is.
That they're running around a wall that's over 1,000 years old.
It is, it
Okay,
is.
Oh, yeah.
fair enough. Kathy, what's your favorite attraction?
Well, in my case, I would say Kaiyuan Temple.
Okay, I was going to say that, but okay, fine. We'll give it to you.
Stole your answer.
Okay,
There we go.
so thank you.
Great minds think alike.
Well, of course.
Better mind, excuse me. Go for it, Kathy.
Thank you. It's a friendly. Thank you for the compliment. And I've been there for more than 100 times, and it's still an attraction for me.
Okay.
The twin pagodas in front of the Kaiyuan Temple.
Yeah.
They were considered a landmark of Quanzhou city because you couldn't find any twin pagodas elsewhere.
Yeah.
In China or in any places in the world. Often there are only one pagoda.
Really? This is
twin
the
pagoda.
only place where there are twin pagodas.
Yeah.
Is there a reason for that? Why they built 2 pagodas?
Well,
think
it's a
there
long
are-
story.
There are, but the only stone pagodas would be.
Yeah.
The only
Stone
stone pagodas
pagodas, twin
Okay.
pagodas.
are in Quanzhou.
Are in Quanzhou.
Yeah.
In all of China?
In all of China.
Normally there's only one pagoda. in
Yeah, I
I
front
didn't
of
know
one.
that.
Yeah.
I just learned something new.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the other twin pagoda twin
Maybe
pagodas
I'm
are not
wrong, but
made of stone, but made of bricks.
Made of brick.
But also
Okay.
2 pagodas.
Okay.
yeah. And the main hall of the temple was not so lucky as the twin pagodas who survived an earthquake in Ming Dynasty, maybe in like 1604. And the local government rebuilt the building, rebuilt the main hall, and they collect the remains of other temples, like Hinduist temples, like Christian temples, maybe.
Yeah.
Churches. I mean, and you can see how delicate the stone carving are in the platform of a Hinduist temple in a Buddhist temple.
Yeah.
And that's an evidence of how how the diversified cultures of our city.
Yeah.
This is an evidence, and of course there's some other elements. There are also a killing war in the in a temple, in another backyard of the temple, which is something to do with Confucius. And also there's a small memorial chamber of the Mr. Huang Shougong,
Who is that?
and he's the sponsor who donated his mulberry
Oh,
land
Okay.
to build a temple. And of course there's an oldest tree, the oldest tree in Quanzhou, the 1,300-year-old mulberry tree in Quanzhou. You must have a look at it.
So if I touch this 1,300-year-old tree, does that mean I will live longer, or I will have a
Probably.
health? Okay. We gotta go
Probably.
touch that. Is it touchable? Because sometimes it's cordoned off, the ancient trees.
No,
It is
But
not.
wrong
Okay.
no.
The branches.
Stretch its arms.
You gotta jump.
You gotta
You can jump high and touch the.
Yeah,
and touch the. Okay.
and it's very interesting that Mr. Huang left a will prohibiting his descendants from interfering with the properties of the temple, since he donated the land, he prohibited his descendants to interfere with the inner affairs of the temple.
Oh,
So I
interesting.
think
Okay.
integrity, we call that integrity. I think it's a very important spirit for entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And that's how it passed on to the generations.
We're
afterwards.
gonna talk more about entrepreneurship in a second because I want to touch upon Quanzhou's economy, but the culture and history is fascinating. So I have to ask Guoheng about his favorite cultural site. But again, I mean, really interesting that these two twin stone pagodas still remained intact after, from what I understand, an 8.1 magnitude earthquake in the early 1600s. So I'm just thinking about the engineering marvel that existed back then. We're talking about an 8.1 magnitude earthquake.
Right.
That's right.
And the twin pagoda still survived. So it did not crumble and then people rebuilt it. It
No,
just survived.
It just survived. Yeah.
Okay.
it survived.
Okay.
Yeah.
Guoheng, I feel like this is a hard choice for you because you understand this in such a profound and in-depth way. If you had to choose out of these 22 sites, which is your favorite cultural attraction?
No, I would not make that. I would not choose any of it.
That's
but
already a
because-
profound answer.
That's a hard no.
Because I
Yeah.
would have to choose it as a whole,
As a
like
whole,
22
okay.
sides. And because these 22 sides, they are supporting each other to the theme, to the title of the Quanzhou Emporium of the World in Songyuan, China. And
Yeah.
each one is indispensable. So,
I agree.
so in my eyes, I would have to choose, I would have to look at as a whole. And of course, each heritage site has these very excellent features.
Yeah.
But it is that they joined together makes it even better. When I always talk to my friends, they would ask me, why don't you just introduce the such as Islam or the Islamic influence, Muslims influence in Quanzhou? I would say this is just one of the component sites. No matter how old it is, no matter how significant the architecture, magnificent the architecture is, it cannot be listed as the World Heritage, only World Heritage list.
Yeah.
It would have to be, you would have to consider all 22 sites together because they kind of complement each other
Yeah.
and support each other and make it like with universal value. And speaking of that, I would also like to mention that you see that Kaiyuan Temple's twin pagodas survived after earthquakes. And also you see the statue of Laozi sitting here peacefully. And you see all the living heritage sites like the Kaiyuan Temple, the Tianhou Temple, people still go there.
Yeah.
So the reason of the city being able to preserve these kind of so many heritage sites in such a good way, I would say that would thanks to the profound work and the profound contribution by the heritage protection practitioners, generation after generation, and also the citizens of Quanzhou. They cherish heritages like they cherish their own eyes.
That's right.
That is a pretty deep answer. Now, Guoheng, I understand. 22 sites collectively, I totally agree. So if we have a friend from overseas that visits Quanzhou, how about this? I ask you, what is the first place you would recommend them to visit?
Kaiyuan Temple.
Okay.
Because
Because in
it's-
agreement there.
It's an easy, at easy reach.
Easy reach. And then in the mornings, come here. Sit atop this mountain and just reflect upon yourself with the ancient sage overlooking you.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Let's talk about the modern economy. We talked a lot about history and culture, and the modern economy of Quanzhou, I think, is very interesting because I guess in the early years of China's reform and opening up, Quanzhou, I think, was relatively less developed compared to other parts of Fujian, and now is such an economically dynamic city, I would say. And for our rising star cities, we are looking at Chinese cities with an economic output that has surpassed 1 trillion yuan. And Quanzhou, I believe, did that back in 2020.
Yeah.
right? Even so, during the pandemic year, that's when it surpassed the 1 trillion yuan mark. So this would be about 150 billion US dollars. That's a milestone. And I was just wondering if someone can let our audience know, what do you think allowed Quanzhou to be successful in these past few decades, to have such a rapid level of development, such dynamism during the past maybe 20, 30 years? Kathy, what do you think? What do you think is the secret recipe for Quanzhou's success?
Well, I think people may be the secret recipe of Quanzhou's success. You know, as Vivian mentioned before, the spirit of Quanzhou people, the I would say daring to win, or the determination to win the game, or working extremely hard, and you know, there's a population of 8.85 domestically, but also it's a very important ancestral place for overseas Chinese, and we have another 9.5 million overseas.
So there are more people of Quanzhou descent, or who call Quanzhou their ancestral home, overseas than actually in Quanzhou itself. So the population of Quanzhou is about 8.8 million, overseas Quanzhou
that's
about
right.
9.5 million.
And you know, family and blood links are highly valued in our city. And these people, they left their hometown, but it's their common sense.
Yeah.
That it's their responsibility to build the hometown a better place.
Okay.
And after the opening up and reform, a lot of overseas Chinese come back and invest here. They bring like funds, like experience, like technology, and help local people to, you know, set up their own business. And I think that is one of the most important reasons why Quanzhou has such a booming economy in the past 40 years.
That's also interesting because, of course, government policy is very important, and certainly Quanzhou has that. But based on my conversation with you before, Kathy, it seems like family values or traditional family values, I think that's a very important element for the success of Quanzhou as well. Yes, you have policy. Yes, you have reform and opening up. But I guess this strong link with the hometown of Quanzhou, of overseas Quanzhou people, I think that's very important.
Yeah.
Family bonds.
Family bonds.
Definitely a secret recipe of success for the development of the city.
Yeah, of course. It occurs to me that there's a story about our sister city that when I paid a visit to our sister city in Kuching, South Malaysia, the fourth largest city in Malaysia, I was surprised that the mayor was from Quanzhou.
Oh, wow.
And he speaks better Mandarin than I do.
So this is just pure coincidence.
It's coincidence, yeah.
So the city didn't know when it had the sister city in Malaysia that the mayor of the city is also from Quanzhou.
Actually his ancestors.
His ancestors is from Quanzhou.
Yeah, he knows he's from Quanzhou. And at the end of the visit, he gave me a copy of his genealogy.
Yeah.
And asked me to find his ancestral village for him.
Yeah.
And coincidentally, we have a platform by the Return Overseas Chinese Association to find the ancestral place for overseas Chinese according to their genealogy. And it took like 3 days because the name of his village, we have 2 villages with the same name. And it took me 3 days to locate the village of the mayor's ancestral place. And, you know, he was very, very happy. And he said if it were not for the pandemic, he would visit Quanzhou as soon as possible.
Wow.
And I'm sure he's so willing to promote exchanges and cooperation between Malaysia and Quanzhou.
Yeah. Wow, that's a very good example of the ties and the bonds of overseas Chinese and to their ancestral home of Quanzhou.
Yeah, and also the, you know, young people who attend universities like Vivian, who maybe went to other cities for university education, are more willing to come back to the hometown.
Yeah, I was
instead of going to big cities like Beijing, Shanghai, and Shenzhen maybe.
Yeah.
Because, you know, family
Family values, I guess.
Family values.
Okay.
Yeah, they're more willing. I
Yeah.
think compared with
Other cities.
Other
Yeah.
cities, yeah.
But Vivian, why did you choose to become an entrepreneur? Maybe tell our audience that, because you chose to start a business in a rather traditional industry of Quanzhou.
Well, personally, for my personal reason, when I turned 30, I thought, why not give myself a chance? So that is my personal reason to start a business.
There's that mindset again, right? Let's take a risk, right? Let's give this a shot. Yeah.
Yeah, and why in Quanzhou? Firstly, it is my hometown, so it would make it easier, obviously. And second, and more importantly, because the market here is ready. So the environment, the policy is very favorable to this entrepreneurship here in Quanzhou. So take my foreign trade industry, where I am in, as an example. If you visit Shishi City or Jinjiang City, which are county-level cities within Quanzhou City, and they are regarded as the capital of garments and shoes, you can easily find large-size, medium-size, or small-size manufacturing factories. Besides, you can also find those shopping centers selling exclusively those materials we needed for garments and shoes. They are the whole mansion, they are the whole blocks full of shops selling this kind of stuff. And those trims for bottoms and zippers, etc. So, I mean, the market is already ready, so why not? And
If I could just interject with that, when I was preparing for this, I was looking up things about the economy, and we were talking the other night that that I was surprised to find out that it's like 80% of all the shoes in China come from Quanzhou,
exactly.
and like 30 or 40% of the world athletic shoes come from Quanzhou.
Around that
exactly.
proportion.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So
So the market is already ready. Besides the land, sea, and air transportation network is already very well developed and comprehensive. We have the port of Quanzhou, we have the Zhenjiang International Airport. So that makes the connection between Quanzhou to other cities in China or even to the world more convenient and easier.
Yeah, you can get to all of China's major cities from Quanzhou as well.
Exactly. So why not?
Yeah. And then, Kathy, what about the policies right now to further improve Quanzhou's business environment?
Oh, well, we have the 14th five-year plan for the infrastructure of the city, and we are supposed to initiate the plan before year 2025 to build a comprehensive infrastructure system, including like water supply and water and energy supply, like environmental friendly facilities and transportation and things like that. And it is supposed to be completed before year 2035.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about the next steps in terms of where you see the city's development heading?
Well, I think, as Vivian mentioned, manufacturing is a very important cluster of our industry. I think the city will still adhere to this industry, and I think we will focus more on the renovation.
Innovation, you mean?
Renovation.
okay.
Renovation of technologies on all industries, not just semiconductor industry, which needs more focus and more investment, but also I have some friends in the like cloth industry, and they said material is very important, and it's not just labor.
It's not labor intensive.
Labor intensive, yeah.
You're seeing that upgrade.
They have to upgrade,
Yeah.
not technology.
Okay.
So I think technology is definitely
the way to go.
The way to go.
We are out of time. I think we can have this conversation and carry this on for another hour because of this beautiful backdrop. But I totally agree with you, Kathy, because we interviewed a few technologies here as well, technology companies in terms of the semiconductor industry.
Yeah.
I think that's very interesting. The chairman of Factory, a semiconductor manufacturer here in Quanzhou, we were speaking with him. And it seems like there is a budding semiconductor ecosystem that's developing here in Quanzhou and the wider Xiamen region.
Sure.
Because we often think about China's innovation hubs as Shenzhen, maybe Shanghai and Beijing, but here in this region, there could be a growing high technology, innovation-led economy as well.
We do have one.
You have one already, so it's not a budding ecosystem, it's an increasingly mature ecosystem.
Yeah.
Okay, Kathy, you're going to have to hold that thought because we are completely out of time. And then we can talk off camera and we're going to enjoy our tea further.
And, you know, with the, according to the policy, we have some supplemental policies related to the attrition of talents from overseas or from Taiwan province, everywhere in the world.
Because you need the talent to really grow your innovation-led economy.
We will provide everything convenient for their, you know.
That's a whole nother topic in terms of attracting talent, but we are completely out of time right now, so would love to carry this conversation further atop beautiful Mount Qingyuan, but we are all out of time. So thank you so much for joining us on our CGTN Rising Star Cities Quanzhou Roundtable, and hopefully we provided an audience all around the world a better picture of Quanzhou. If you ever come to visit China, you have to come to Quanzhou in terms of feeling the dynamism, the history, the culture, the traditions of this city. It is absolutely amazing. I'm Michael. Guoheng, thank you. Kathy, thank you. Vivian, Adam, thank you for joining us in our panel discussion. And hopefully you understand Quanzhou just a little bit more to want to come and visit this city. Bye for now.